What if the reason some men stay in a woman's mind has nothing to do with looks, money, or status? What if attraction is often born in the invisible spaces between certainty and mystery, presence and absence, connection and curiosity? Imagine this. You meet someone. At first they seem ordinary. They don't chase. They don't constantly seek your approval. They don't flood your phone with messages or desperately try to impress you. Yet somehow, days later, you find yourself thinking about them. Then weeks later, they're still crossing your mind. Not because they demanded your attention, but because they quietly earned space inside your imagination. This is where most people misunderstand attraction. They think attraction is about making someone like you. But the deepest forms of attraction happen when someone cannot stop thinking about you. And the human mind has a strange tendency. It does not obsess over what it fully possesses. It obsesses over what it cannot completely understand. The philosophers understood this. The psychologists studied it. The greatest storytellers built entire worlds around it. Human beings are drawn toward mystery, emotional impact, and meaningful absence. In this video, we're not discussing manipulation or deception. We're exploring the psychological forces that naturally make certain people unforgettable, the subtle behaviors that create emotional gravity, the invisible principles that make someone's presence linger long after they've left the room. Because attraction is rarely about forcing attention. It's about becoming someone the mind returns to when there's no reason to. And the first lesson begins with a paradox that most people never understand until it's too late. Part 1. The Power of Mystery. Before we continue to Part 2, analyze this lesson carefully and tell me to continue. Most men believe attraction grows through constant exposure. They think the more they explain themselves, the more available they become. The more attention they give, the stronger the connection will be. But human psychology often moves in the opposite direction. Think about your favorite movie. If someone told you every plot twist before you watched it, would you feel the same excitement? Of course not. Curiosity is emotional fuel, and attraction often survives on curiosity. Carl Jung once suggested that people are fascinated not only by what they understand, but also by what remains hidden beneath the surface. The unknown awakens imagination, and imagination is often stronger than reality. This doesn't mean becoming cold or distant. It means understanding the value of emotional depth. Many people reveal everything immediately, their fears, their dreams, their entire life story. Within days, the mystery disappears. But the most memorable people reveal themselves gradually, like a novel that unfolds chapter by chapter. Every interaction reveals a little more. Every conversation opens a new door. Every meeting leaves one question unanswered. The mind naturally wants closure. When closure is unavailable, attention remains active. This is why you sometimes remember a conversation that felt incomplete. This is why unfinished stories linger longer than finished ones. The brain keeps returning to them. The same principle appears in attraction. People often remember what they haven't fully figured out. Not because mystery is a trick, but because mystery invites participation. The other person becomes emotionally involved in discovering who you are. And what people invest energy into, they tend to value more. The goal is not to hide yourself. The goal is to become deeper than a first impression. Because attraction isn't created when someone learns everything about you. Sometimes it's created when they realize there's still more to discover. Part 2. The Scarcity Principle. Why absence creates desire. Before we continue to Part 3, analyze this lesson carefully and tell me to continue. One of the strangest truths about human psychology is this: presence creates comfort, but absence creates awareness. When someone is always available, always responding instantly, always chasing, always trying to maintain attention, their presence becomes predictable. And the human mind quickly adapts to what becomes predictable. Think about the sound of a clock in a room. At first, you hear every tick. A few minutes later, your brain stops noticing it, not because the sound disappeared, because it became constant. People often work the same way. The more available something becomes, the less conscious attention it receives. This is not cruelty, it is psychology. The ancient philosopher Lao Tzu hinted at this idea when he wrote that what is absent can be just as important as what is present. A wheel functions because of the empty space at its center. A room becomes useful because of the space inside it. Absence has power, not because it creates pain, because it creates reflection. Many men make a critical mistake when they become interested in a woman. They try to occupy every moment, every hour, every conversation, every piece of attention. But attraction is not built only in interaction. Often it grows in separation. It grows during the moments when she is walking alone and suddenly remembers something you said. It grows when she hears a song that reminds her of a conversation. It grows when she notices your absence and realizes your presence had value. This is why emotionally secure people often appear more attractive. They do not cling. They do not panic when communication slows. They have a life beyond the connection. Their attention feels valuable because it is chosen, not constantly offered. The irony is profound. The harder people chase attention, the more attention tends to slip away. The less desperately they seek validation, the more naturally they attract it. Absence should never be manufactured as a game, but a meaningful life naturally creates space. And that space allows anticipation to grow, because attraction is not measured by how often someone sees you. Sometimes it is measured by how often they think about you when you're gone. And that leads us to an even deeper psychological force, one that causes people to remember you long after conversations end. Part 3. Emotional imprinting. Why people remember how you made them feel. Before we continue to Part 4, analyze this lesson carefully and tell me to continue. Most people believe attraction is built through information. They think the right words, the perfect message, or the cleverest conversation creates lasting impact. But psychology reveals something deeper. The human mind is not a storage box for facts. It is an archive of emotions. Think about someone you met years ago. Can you remember every sentence they spoke? Probably not. But you can remember how they made you feel. You remember whether you felt understood, whether you felt alive, whether you felt inspired, whether you felt seen. That is emotional imprinting. The strongest attractions are rarely created by logic alone. They are created by emotional experiences that leave a mark on memory. Carl Jung believed that meaningful encounters awaken hidden parts of ourselves. Sometimes, a person becomes unforgettable because they connected us to emotions we had forgotten existed. This is why some conversations stay with you for years, not because they were technically impressive, but because they touched something real. Many men focus entirely on being interesting. They want to appear successful, intelligent, or impressive, but truly memorable people focus on making others feel interesting. They listen deeply. They ask questions that most people never ask. They create moments where the other person feels understood rather than judged. And in a world filled with distractions, being understood feels rare. Imagine two men meeting the same woman. One spends the entire evening talking about himself, his achievements, his experiences, his opinions. The second spends the evening creating genuine connection. He listens, he notices, he responds with curiosity. Months later, who do you think she remembers? Usually the one who created an emotional experience. Because attraction often follows emotional significance. People remember those who made them feel stronger, calmer, more confident, more alive, or more understood. The great irony is that the people who chase admiration often become forgettable. The people who create emotional impact become unforgettable. Maya Angelou expressed this beautifully. People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. And that brings us to the final lesson. The deepest principle of attraction is not mystery. It is not absence. It is not even emotional impact. It is something far more powerful, a quality that silently separates those who are admired from those who are truly unforgettable. Part 4. The ultimate attraction principle, becoming the prize. This is the lesson most people never learn, and because they never learn it, they spend years chasing attention, approval, and affection from people who were never meant to define their worth in the first place. The deepest secret behind attraction is not learning how to make someone think about you. It is becoming someone who is too busy building a meaningful life to obsess over who is thinking about them. At first, this sounds contradictory. After all, isn't this video about attraction? Yes, but the strongest attraction often appears as a side effect, not as a goal. Think about the sun. The planets do not chase the sun. The sun does not chase the planets. Its gravity comes from what it is, not from what it wants. The same principle applies to human beings. The people who create the strongest attraction are rarely the ones desperately seeking it. They are focused on growth, purpose, discipline, vision. They have dreams larger than validation, and because of that, their attention becomes valuable. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." A person with purpose moves differently. They don't constantly seek reassurance. They don't shape-shift to please everyone. They don't abandon themselves to keep someone interested. Their identity has roots, and roots create stability. And roots create stability. Stability creates confidence, and confidence creates attraction. Many people mistakenly believe attraction is about becoming more desirable to others. But real magnetism begins when you become deeply connected to yourself. When your happiness is not dependent on a text message, when your confidence is not dependent on someone's approval, when your self-worth is not dependent on whether another person chooses you. Because something remarkable happens. The less your emotional survival depends on another person, the more authentic your presence becomes. You stop performing, you stop pretending, you stop negotiating your value. And authenticity has a power that manipulation can never replicate. People sense it, they feel it, they trust it. Imagine two men. One constantly worries about losing the woman he likes. The other appreciates her deeply, but refuses to lose himself in the process. One operates from fear, the other operates from abundance. One asks, "How do I keep her interested?" The other asks, "How do I continue becoming the best version of myself?" Over time, the difference becomes impossible to ignore, because fear repels, purpose attracts, neediness exhausts, self-respect inspires. And perhaps the greatest irony of attraction is this: the people who spend their lives trying to become unforgettable often remain ordinary. The people who dedicate themselves to growth, meaning, and purpose become unforgettable without trying. Why? Because they possess something rare, a life worth living independently of anyone else's approval. And that is the ultimate attraction principle, not making someone think about you, but becoming someone whose presence naturally leaves an impression. So, if you remember nothing else from this video, remember these 4 lessons. Mystery creates curiosity. Absence creates awareness. Emotional impact creates memory. Purpose creates magnetism. But beneath all of them lies a deeper truth. Attraction is not about controlling another person's mind. It is about understanding human nature while continuing to build a life that feels meaningful with or without anyone's attention. Because the people who leave the deepest mark on others are rarely those who chased affection. They are those who became fully alive. And perhaps tonight, before you close this video, ask yourself one question. If nobody was watching, if nobody was validating you, if nobody was choosing you, would you still be building the life you're building today? Because the answer to that question may reveal something far more important than how to attract someone else. It may reveal how to become someone you genuinely admire. And once that happens, you no longer need to chase attention. You naturally command it. If this message resonated with you, leave a comment below. I choose purpose over approval. Because sometimes the greatest transformation begins the moment you stop trying to be unforgettable and start becoming yourself.